So, I have a little bit of an update that I wanted to dive into. It revolves around the Habs. Okay, maybe not an update. Maybe like 3 updates. Because firstly, we're going to be talking about goaltending. Secondly, we're going to talk about players in the system. And we're also going to talk about players that are on the team. On the team, off the team, it's all floating around there in Habs land. Because this news update goes over a few extra things that we had seen this morning. Without further ado, though, let's take the conversation onto the goaltending. Because it's been very apparent that the Montreal Canadiens have new life, let's just say, breathed into this organization with the departure of Cayden Primeau and the arrival of Jakub Dobes. Dobes has been a godsend in the best way possible, in a way that nobody would have anticipated. But when it comes to that aforementioned Cayden Primeau, hey, turns out he's actually been doing some pretty good work in the American Hockey League thus far in the 25 season. I say 25 because, he's only played games in Laval in 2025. But Cayden Primeau has himself a total of 2 games played with the Laval Rocket. He has a .977 save percentage and an .050 goals against average. He's 2-0-0 in his campaign, and he's got 1 shutout already. Primeau is an absolute monster. And even when the Laval Rocket aren't using him, they're still winning games with very few goals against. The Rocket have been a powerhouse. It's been really fun for fans to watch the Laval team this season. And Primeau is doing the old Daniel Sprong on us, saying that he does not belong in the American Hockey League and trying his best to get an extended NHL opportunity. This is why we made a video a few days ago talking about some chatter as to whether or not the Ottawa Senators, for example, would be interested in a player like Cayden Primeau. And here's the thing, if Primeau does get sent over to a team in the same division, if he does get another NHL opportunity, then that's only going to be good for him. I think a lot of people can acknowledge that it's probably best for Primeau to continue his career in the National Hockey League, but with Montreal and the way things have been going with Montembeault and Dobes, it's very difficult to see that happening in the short-term future. Anyways, Cayden Primeau, the reason we're talking about him today is because he actually had some comments about Dobes and his debut with the Habs. Oh, is he jealous? Is he gonna start talking smack? Is he gonna bring up how he wants to take the guy's job? No. According to Vincent Demidov over here on Twitter, Cayden Primeau said, "A shutout in the NHL is a great achievement in itself, but to do it in your first career game is even more sensational. I'm really happy for him." And I'm not gonna lie, a part of me, like the cynical part of me, is wondering whether or not this is kind of like that meme of like the happy mask with the angry guy behind it. Like, oh yeah, he's so good. Oh, I'm so happy for him. Like, obviously, that's probably not the case. I'm sure Cayden Primeau is a swell guy, and we've all kind of known that for a while. Just a bad hockey goalie at the National Hockey League level this season, but he's been a fine, swell dude over the past few years. He's been in the Canadiens organization, so I have no doubt that his happiness for Dobes is genuine, even though it has come sort of at the expense of his own job. But I did find it interesting for Primeau to go out there and say some very high and mighty things about his fellow Canadiens goaltender. What a good sport he is. Sticking with news about guys that are on the Montreal Canadiens, let's go over this update right here. Alex Newhook did not participate in practice today with the Habs due to the flu. And with that in mind, I don't want to get all alarmist or anything, but at this point we have to start thinking about the way the Montreal Canadiens locker room is just kind of surviving. I think that's the best word to use. Surviving, because Patrik Laine was out for an extended amount of time with the flu, and by extended amount of time, I mean like a week and a bit. It was kind of peculiar for a lot of fans to watch this go down. Like, hey, Laine's out for a while. But then you have to acknowledge just how bad flu season has really gotten this year. I don't know what it is, man. Like, something is in the air. And it seems to have been affecting a lot of athletes in different sports, not just the NHL, but we had been seeing a lot of stuff out of the Texas area. Obviously, Montreal, it's not necessarily Texas. And for me here, I'm in BC, so it's a little bit different. But still, the Americas, for hockey teams that are traveling around there, the Montreal Canadiens played off against Dallas just a while ago. Although that, of course, was not in Dallas, that was in Montreal. So there certainly is something going around the league right now. It's not a good time for those who are getting sick. So yeah, Alex Newhook, all we got to do is just hope that you're able to recover properly, you know? There are some other guys as well that are also taken out of the lineups because of the flu. I'm pretty sure Jack Eichel missed yesterday's Vegas game because of the same thing. Good thing, though, Vegas still ended up winning. And I only say that about Eichel because I've had him on so many of my fantasy teams this year that it's really difficult to go out there and say that he is out. But anyways, let's go over to our final piece of Montreal Canadiens news heading into today. It is none other than Ivan mother-freaking Demidov, who had himself an amazing goal earlier this morning in an SKA St. Petersburg game against Lokomotiv Yaroslavl. This was a really beautiful play because Ivan Demidov ended up stealing the puck in the Lokomotiv zone off of a turnover. He comes in towards the goal, tries to come in for the shot, but instead drags it into the middle. The defenseman is on his back, so Demidov spins around and then goes up on the backhand. Beautiful goal. Top left corner by Demidov. Just a swing and not a miss in the slightest, just a swing and a goal from the young 19-year-old. He now has himself 14 goals on the season and a total of 32 points in 43 games played. Demidov's point production is already indicative of a player who can really do some good things at the NHL level, like the Kaprizovs and the Gusevs and the Panarins and all these guys. They were doing pretty well, right? But Demidov is just kind of at that level already as a 19-year-old, so he certainly is in a great spot. In fact, I think it was Bob Hartley the other day on, I'm not sure if it was like BPM or TVA or something, but Bob Hartley went out there and spoke about how Ivan Demidov is a generational prospect, and I don't want to go out there and say that just yet. That's a little too far-fetched for my liking at this time, but still, hearing the news and hearing the conversation about Demidov get to that point, I think is a really good sign. Especially when you consider the long-term implications of what a generational prospect can provide to your team. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the latest in Montreal Canadiens news. Cayden Primeau speaking out about Jakub Dobes and his hot start. Primeau is not jealous, it looks like. Primeau is not sour graping, it looks like. So, obviously, he's a good sport. Love to see it. Lots of camaraderie there in the Montreal Canadiens prospect system. But what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on Newhook missing out because of the flu? The flu's been pretty bad this season, man. Pretty bad. And then what are your thoughts on Demidov and his generationalness going out there and putting up some beautiful backhand goals in the Continental Hockey League? Comment sections down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.